Well, there's three things. Number one, you don't want your last experience to be a negative experience. So if you can, if you fail at and it's okay to fail. I'm not saying failing is a bad thing. I'm just saying if you get hurt or something bad happens, at least end it on a positive note. The second thing is don't live life with regrets. When you're an old person laying in the bed and your body isn't what it used to be, you don't want to look back on your life and say, oh, I wish I would have done this, or I wish I would have done that. You don't want to have regrets. And the other thing is for people in any age, I talk about 40s and 50s, but even in your 30s and your 20s, if you're on a path, if you went to college to be a doctor and you don't want to be a doctor, pivot. It's never too late to pivot to something that you want to do, something that you discover about yourself, a passion, a calling. So those are the three things. And if you do that, you'll live a very happy life. I tell you what, great story. I did a lot of practices. I did crash once in practice and I burned myself and I lost 185 inches of skin, basically being burned alive. And after I overcame that, I had my first professional flight and I was in Miami and I've got this thing strapped on. And all of a sudden, I felt like the coyote strapped to the Acme rocket. I was scared. I didn't want to do it. I wanted to be anywhere, and I came very close to quitting. But I pulled myself together. I said, that's just the fear speaking. Fear is natural. It's normal. And I went back to what I said. I'm well trained. My equipment is running good. I have a good safety crew. All I had to do was reach deep down inside of me, find the courage to turn on that throttle and do that flight. And I did.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to a brand new episode of the Out of the Great podcast. My name is Daniel Lugo. I'm your host. And today I have the pleasure of having here the Rocketman, Dan Lugo. I'm hoping I'm saying your last name right.
Yeah.
I think it's going to be a wonderful podcast. And Dan, can you please introduce yourself to the audience?
So my name is Dan Schlund. I am the Rocketman. Basically, I flew a jetpack for about a decade, and I've been to 25 different countries, 6 continents, and just some of the biggest events in the world, and had some ups and downs along the way.
Well, that's all of us, and that's what we're here to talk about is our downs, but at the same time, what we learn through them. You know, we all go through some storms. That's the way I call them, our valleys, and how we get through them is the important part and the things we learn. So you have a powerful philosophy that is courage is a skill, not a personality. And that fear is information, not instruction. For a listener who feels completely paralyzed by a massive decision or risk in their life, how do they begin treating their fear as data rather than a stop sign?
Say that one more time. I'm sorry. I didn't quite understand the question.
No worries.
My fault.
No, you're good. You have a powerful philosophy that says courage is a skill, not a personality, and that fear is information, not instruction. For a listener who feels completely paralyzed by a massive decision or risk in their life, how do they begin treating their fear as a data rather than a stop sign?
Gotcha. So the way I look at it is, especially in my experience, one, it depends what you're afraid of. You know, some people are afraid of driving. So you have to think to yourself, number one, is your equipment good? Are you well trained? And do you have the courage to attempt it? And the more times you do it, the better you feel about it and the more comfortable you get with it. But really what it is are you prepared? So courage without preparation is not a good match. You have to have preparation to know what you're going to do, what you're going to step into, and then the courage to do it.
I got you. So you have to be prepared in order to have courage. But at the same time, my question is, there are some times that life requires us to have courage, but we are not prepared. How do we deal with those situations?
Well, the best way is, it depends on what you're doing. The best way is, to prepare as best you can. Now, I'm the type of guy that just jumps in with both feet and learns how to swim afterwards because I have confidence that I'll be able to do it. Now, if I were to get into a jet plane, I might have the courage to do it, but I don't have the preparation and the practice to know what all the controls are and so forth. So it really comes down to Do you understand what it is that you're facing? What are the risks involved? And are you willing to take whatever consequences there are out of those risks?
I like that. More people have walked on the moon than have professionally flown a rocket belt.
Yes.
When you were standing on that launch pad, completely exposed with no parachute, what did that specific type of isolation teach you about mental focus?
I tell you what, great story. I did a lot of practices. I did crash once in practice and I burned myself and I lost 185 inches of skin, basically being burned alive. And after I overcame that, I had my first professional flight and I was in Miami and I've got this thing strapped on and all of a sudden I felt like the coyote strapped to the Acme rocket. I was scared. I didn't want to do it. I wanted to be anywhere and I came very close to quitting, but I pulled myself together. I said, that's just the fear speaking. Fear is natural. It's normal. And I went back to what I said. I'm well trained. My equipment is running good. I have a good safety crew. All I had to do was reach deep down inside of me, find the courage to turn on that throttle and do that flight. And I did. So that was the, you're going to be afraid the first time you do anything. You're going to be afraid. You're going to have second thoughts. You're going to think to yourself, I'm not prepared. When in truth is you are prepared. You just don't have enough experience of doing it. And taking that first step is the first step to getting that experience.
So I see. The more you do something, the more courage you have, and that makes total sense. My question mainly talks about because when we go through our storms, our struggles, we normally don't have that courage. It is something that we have to launch it because we have no practice. For example, I had no practice in recovering from surgery. In my case, someone may not have practice in stopping an addiction, but we have to find that courage. My question for you is how does a person that is, let's say, not prepared find that courage and apply it to their storm or their valley?
I understand. You know what it is? Okay, there's two aspects to this. Number one, there's my faith in God, that I know that God has a purpose for me. So that's one thing that gives me comfort. The other thing is especially in the surgery, because I understand the surgery aspect. Do you trust the people around you? Do you trust them with them or have faith? Faith isn't faith until it's all you're holding on to. So you have two options. You can either give up or you can put your head down and walk through the storm. And so there's courage in that and just moving forward. I did hear a little bit about your podcast and the surgeries that you went through. And that is a very difficult thing because, you're not prepared for that. You're not prepared to sit in the hospital, but you find it within yourself to trust the people around you and to have that mental idea of, I'm going to get through this. I just have to survive the next day, the next hour, the next minutes, and slowly push forward and do what you have to do. Let them do what they have to do. It's a very difficult, and I know a lot of people struggle with this, and it is a very difficult thing to do. I didn't prepare for this. This is the situation I'm in. Trust your instincts. Instincts are a very, very important thing. Does it sound right? Do I feel comfortable with this? What are my choices if I don't do this? Like in your surgery, if you wanted to leave, you would not survive. So you just had to face it. For me, I believe that God had a purpose for my life. So I relied on that a lot. And I trusted the professionals.
I think that's a good point. And you often talk about being the most cautious man in the room. Despite flying a jetpack for a living, how do you differentiate between healthy, calculated risk and dangerous, reckless risk?
So everything is risk. Driving a car is risk. Walking down the street is risk. Going outside your house is risk. And you have to look at the probability. What can happen when you walk out that door or you drive down that street? And it just goes back to, do you trust your car? Do you trust your abilities? Do you trust your mechanics that they prepared that car well? If you're going off into a very bad neighborhood, maybe you think twice about that. So it's all a risk and reward. You have to determine how much risk am I willing to put into this, and if something goes bad, can I accept that?
I think that's good. And in your book and documentary, The Last Rocketman, you dive into the devastating crash that left you with a broken neck and severe burns. As a paramedic, you actually had to diagnose your own injuries on the spot. What goes through your mind in a moment where your professional training and personal trauma collide like that?
Well, here's the thing. Whenever something massive happens to you, and this goes into all your previous questions, don't panic. Because if you panic, you're not thinking straight. So never panic. Think through the situation. Now, I had my paramedic training. I felt tingling in my 3 fingers, but not this one. So I knew that there was an injury at this part of my neck. So I just remain calm. You work the problem. So whatever problem is going on in your life, work the problem, and you don't work it all at once. You take one step at a time. Number 1, my hands still move, my feet still move. Okay, that's good. Number 2, number 3, number 4, number 5. And you slowly take the most important thing first, then the next one, then the next one when you're in an emergency sort of situation. And that's what I did in my crash.
After a decade away from the rocket belt, you chose to strap it on one more time. What was the internal turning point that made you decide your last experience wasn't going to be about?
In all the years that I did stunt work, we had a saying, don't let your last stunt be a bad stunt. So if you had a slip up, if you had a scare, if you had an injury, as soon as you can, go do it again. If you have a car crash, as soon as you're ready, get back in that car and drive again, because your subconscious mind will remember the last memory. And if it's a bad memory, it will create a fear, and that fear will make it worse the next time. The longer you let it go, the worse the fear grows. But if your last memory is a positive one, okay, I crashed, but I got back in the car, got back in the jetpack, I flew it. Everything was fine. So that was kind of that's what I wanted to do. I wanted to get back into the rocket belt so that for the rest of my life, I knew that my last experience wasn't a negative experience.
I really like that because it's like giving it one more go.
Yes.
And you're not ending it, you like saying, I'm ending it on a high note.
Yeah.
So I really like that because sometimes we experience something. For example, I play baseball. So I'm going to give a baseball example. Maybe your last at bat before a surgery, you hit a ground ball and you start running and then you turn your ACL.
Yeah.
Right? That's horrible. Right? And then you go to recovery, but the last thing on your mind was breaking your ACL. So if you go through it again and you play baseball again and you give it one more go, I think it's going to be a positive that's going to be on your mind forever. And I think it was a positive for you, at least from what I'm hearing, strapping on that talk about one more time to give him one last go.
Right. Because if you tore your ACL and you didn't get back in the game when you were healed and ready to go, then the last image in your mind is, oh, if I play baseball, I'm going to get hurt. And your subconscious mind thinks baseball hurts. But if you go out there and you play again, even if you don't do great, this way you don't get injured. And you're like, okay, it was just a situation that happened, but I'm okay now. I agree with you.
I think that's a good one. You managed to build from making less than minimum wage as a rocket man to building national set medics, a multi-million-dollar business. For those experienced a midlife crisis or a forced career pivot, what is the biggest crossover skill you from piloting as a rocket to running a business?
So, it's funny. It's flying the rocket belts, being Rocket Man, the jetpack, all that. It was like a rock star life, except without the rock star money. And I got to travel the world. I got to do all the things, but I didn't make the money. Sure, I'd make a couple of $1,000s per flight, but when you spread that out over a couple of months, it wasn't a lot of money. I made very little money. And my anxiety was growing. My bank account was shrinking, and I had to figure out what to do with my life. And after my crash where I broke my neck, I was like, I can't do this anymore. Now I've already accomplished everything I wanted to accomplish. It was time to move on. But in doing so, in my 40s, I was 44 years old. I lost my identity. I lost my wife. I had no money in the bank. I had to figure out how to pivot. And everyone in their 40s and 50s at some point in their life will run into something. It's either a divorce, a loss of the job, an injury, a health scare, something like that. And you have to learn to pivot. And so I went back to what I did, working on an ambulance. I turned that into National Set Medics, where we provide medics for TV shows and movies. And in a decade, we grossed over $10 million. So what I'm saying is that it's not only if you have to pivot midlife, you can pivot, not only survive, but thrive. And to throw in the Christian analogy, what I believe is that God had to pull me out of that rocket belt because he had something better planned for me. And in doing so, I kicked and screamed. I didn't want to leave. I wanted to stay who I was, but I knew I couldn't do it anymore. I had to change. And again, it comes to courage. Do you have the courage to change when you need to?
I really like that because for me too, like God had the opportunity to take me to Him in the first surgery, and I believe that God has a better plan for me now. Than if I keep trusting His plan will come out. It's just, do I have the courage to do it? And I do, because I believe in Him. For me, faith is for the blind because we don't see.
Yes.
But at the same time, when we look at things, and I said this in a previous video, when we look at things in the retrospective, we look at how good things came out of the bad, right?
Yeah.
And that's an important part. I really like what you said there, because God taking you out of the rock about allowed you to see something that was for your future self a better one than what you were experiencing at the moment.
Yeah, I heard your story about the CPR and bringing you back to life, and God definitely has a plan for you. What a blessing that you and I are here talking and not otherwise. So, and that's not easy to get through, but you kept moving forward. Look at you now. You're doing great. It's very, very cool. Cool story.
Thank you. And yours as well. I was intrigued when we connected. I was intrigued by your story, and I was like, this is gonna be a great story because you had action. I like action movies, right?
Yeah.
But what interested me is that you said, I'm going to go back at it one more go.
Yeah.
And that interests me, and I hope the audience liked it. And one question I want to ask is, what is the ultimate truth you hope people take away when they read your memoir or watch your documentary, The Last Rocketman?
Well, there's three things. Number one, you don't want your last experience to be a negative experience. So if you can, if you fail at and it's okay to fail. I'm not saying failing is a bad thing. I'm just saying if you get hurt or something bad happens, at least end it on a positive note. The second thing is don't live life with regrets. When you're an old person laying in the bed and your body isn't what it used to be, you don't want to look back on your life and say, oh, I wish I would have done this, or I wish I would have done that. You don't want to have regrets. And the other thing is for people in any age, I talk about 40s and 50s, but even in your 30s and your 20s, if you're on a path, if you went to college to be a doctor and you don't want to be a doctor, pivot. It's never too late to pivot to something that you want to do, something that you discover about yourself, a passion, a calling. So those are the three things. And if you do that, you'll live a very happy life.
I really like those points. And before we end the podcast, where can our audience go to follow your journey, buy the book, and watch your documentary?
So the documentary's not out yet, but it's coming out soon. So if you want to keep up with that, the website is rocketman.tv. So rocketman.tv, and you can see all kinds of cool pictures of the flights. You can see, the book, the updates. We scrunched everything in a very short amount of time, but this is truly a battle between perseverance and fear, and anxiety that I still struggle with. But despite all of that, I'm living my best life.
I really like that. And I'm going to leave that link down the description for the listeners. I want to thank you, Dan, for coming here, sharing your experience, sharing what you learned from your journey. And I want to thank the audience for listening to the podcast. And please don't forget to subscribe, like, and share with the people that you love. And don't forget to go to Dan's website or follow me through all my social media. I will leave the link down in the description. May God bless you all. Take care.